PG&E is a murderous enterprise. They murdered my father.
Previously on Fire, Power, Money.
This is the hook that killed 84 people.
And PG&E's decision was simply just to let these things hang until they broke.
It was motivated for money. They killed my father for money.
Do you think we're going to get through the next decade without another PG&E disaster that kills people?
No. After PG&E admitted to killing 84 people by illegally sparking the campfire, it only took a few months before we'd be asking if PG&E killed again.
Over 24 major wildfires.
4 people were killed in Shasta County.
The Zog fire took the lives of 4 people.
Firefighters battling the Zog fire in Shasta.
The flames of that fire raced toward the home where the McLeod family lives.
I lost everything in 45 minutes. My entire life was wiped out.
Zach McLeod was on a grocery run. His wife Elena and their 8-year-old daughter Fela had to run for their lives. They got out of the house, racing down the hill in a pickup truck. This pickup truck.
Put yourself in their shoes. Trying to drive out of an area that's on fire with the winds that sound like a freight train, black smoke everywhere, and my daughter just must have been so scared, and my wife must have been so scared, and they didn't make it off the road.
Mother and child, along with 2 other people in the small community of Igo, died in the flames. As their families started to grieve, they got another shock.
They came to pick me up. My mom was in tears, and what happened now? I couldn't imagine anything being worse than this. And she told me that PG&E's equipment had been seized.
CAL FIRE investigators seized parts of this PG&E power line where the Zog fire started.
And certainly homicide is a potential given that 4 individuals have died.
The Zog fire became a criminal investigation with only one suspect named, PG&E.
They were supposed to be shutting off the power due to high winds.
But PG&E didn't shut it off. Our daily interactions with electricity feel small, but every flick, every tap, every plug, like raindrops in a flood, they all add up.
Electricity is the world's largest machine.
I wish every Californian could sit here and look at this monstrosity.
From massive substations like this one, PG&E's machine reaches across an area the size of Oklahoma, 100,000 miles of power lines. The hard fact is, the biggest machine in California is owned by a 2-time felon.
This machine all exists for one basic job: transportation, to move a dangerous product, electricity, which PG&E has shown time and time again it can't seem to do without killing people.
In 2010, it was a gas pipeline carrying fuel to power plants. 8 people died in the San Bruno gas explosion. Neighborhood power lines caused deaths during windstorms in 2015 and 2017. PG&E paid civil damages for wildfires that killed 46 people. And then the infamous hook broke on this high-tension line, sparking the campfire. The official death toll is 85. Prosecutors only charged PG&E with 84 because one victim took their own life.
It's just a matter of time before something else happens.
Catherine Sandoval used to regulate PG&E as a state utilities commissioner. Now she teaches utilities law at Santa Clara University.
And when you look at their repeated failures, it's not about a hook.
Instead, she says, it's about why PG&E didn't find the hook and replace it.
They're hiding problems.
From themselves and others.
Yes, I think that is the root of their problem.
PG&E admits it doesn't have records. PG&E says it doesn't know how old the hook was. The company also lacked records on the gas pipeline that blew. Sandoval says PG&E knows that can lead to disaster.
This is why I have come to believe and be very concerned that they continue to engage in criminal thinking.
She points to the fact that PG&E keeps resisting plans that would make it keep more detailed records of safety work.
Because the way that they behave makes no rational sense for people who are supposed to know how to operate an electric utility.
Are you convinced personally that PG&E can in fact make this shift and start putting safety above profit?
I absolutely am. I absolutely am. There's no
And
question
it will
in my
happen?
mind. And it will happen.
We won't see you back at one of these?
No, sir.
PG&E is back under investigation as homicide detectives try to prove the company killed 4 people in the Zog fire. The company's already working on a defense. We filmed this helicopter brought in by PG&E, removing sections of the dead pine tree suspected of hitting the company's power line. The helicopter also carried away power poles, including this one at the center of CAL FIRE's investigation of the Zog fire. After CAL FIRE released the crime scene, PG&E spent weeks collecting evidence here. They did all this out of an abundance of caution, PG&E told us in an email.
We tucked her in and we prayed as we do every night.
Zach's trying to hold on to the memories. The last night he tucked Fela into bed.
Prayed for all of our families, prayed for safety from the coronavirus, prayed for the world.
Now, Zach can't help but wonder, would his wife and child still be alive today if someone at PG&E had just flipped a switch?
There's so many more special moments that we have been denied.
All through the burn area, we noticed these markings on the blackened trunks of the trees. We'd seen those markings before.
The yellow X was to take a tree down, but it just didn't happen.
200 miles away and months earlier, Richard Morris gave us a tour of the trees that PG&E marked in his hilly neighborhood. PG&E's contractors kept marking them again and again. Crews never actually cut down the trees. He says they just changed the color of the spray paint each year, like tags on a license plate.
Millions of excuses why they don't cut the trees that are marked with white, yellow, orange X's. Only the red X's now.
The Morrises live in Camino, a place better known as Apple Hill, a major tourist destination every fall when fire danger runs the highest. If she had to evacuate through this, Judy Morris worries she'd burn to death in her car.
I'd like to invite them to be here on an Apple Hill Day in October and see the masses of humanity that are here. What could show that they are contrite would be to come into a community like this and not set us up to be another paradise. But there's no contrition. It's all lip service.
Governor Gavin Newsom's office declined or ignored every interview request we sent over the last 2 years.
PG&E was convicted of 6 federal felonies in 2016. After that, you took more than $200,000 to help get elected. How should people trust you to be running the show to come up with the solution?
I wish you luck with whatever you're working on, but that's a strange question.
Today, he's even less accessible.
And I want to briefly shift topics to PG&E. With PG&E,
it's always the last question. It's a truism.
I don't want to break tradition.
Yeah.
We submitted a written question to the one reporter allowed at this event in San Jose.
So with PG&E under a homicide investigation, suspected of causing last month's Zog fire and killing 4 people in Shasta County, why should PG&E be allowed to continue making life and death decisions about when and where to shut off the power?
They have substantially improved upon their previous efforts, but they're not even near where we expect they will be in a number of years. And they have a lot of work to do to restore not just your power, but to restore the trust that they have failed to earn over the course of decades.
Newsom went on a couple minutes. His answer never acknowledged the people who died or the criminal investigation, but he did talk about his role leading negotiations to get PG&E out of bankruptcy and back to making a profit. He didn't take follow-ups, but if he had, we would have asked this.
How is that not like giving somebody who's repeatedly crashed and drunk driving the keys to a car?
Right. Well, I think, again, we have to prove the difference.
Newsom promised a reimagined PG&E, but the experts we interviewed just don't see PG&E making changes to how it behaves.
They're in the process of replacing their CEO, and they've replaced most of their board members, and they've restructured nothing. You know, it's like, okay, we redid the paint job on the Boeing Max.
Unlike an airplane with safety problems, we can't ground PG&E's machine. We need it too much.
It's not enough just to fix who's ever at the top of this machine. If you don't fix the machine, you can't fix the problem.
The governor may think PG&E is improving, but his fire chief isn't as sold.
My fear is that the progress that's being made is still not fast enough to get us to where we need to be to really, truly protect the public in the timeline that we have to work with.
You don't want to end up a day late and a dollar short, basically.
I don't want to see another campfire.
On the next firepower money,
Literally, we're letting the murderer into the crime scene and telling them to collect our evidence for us.
we'll take you behind the scenes of the criminal investigation of the campfire.
There was a number of offers for rather large money to say, do this civilly, don't charge them criminally.
But they were trying to use the bankruptcy to get out of being charged.
Correct.
The prosecutors will tell us PG&E wasn't the only group who made the campfire manslaughter case harder to bring to justice.
Did it hold the case back?
We believe it did. Yeah, it made it more difficult.